Okay. I think we're going to get started. So my name's DJ Ray, and I've been a DJ for many years. We'll just leave it at that. This is my third live TikTok every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Usually a half hour, 8 to 8:30, but I may be extending to 8:45. We're just kind of playing with that because it's got a couple other portions of the live that I want to add. But for right now, I'm just sticking to the primary part of the podcast, which is every week I'll be counting down the top 20 leading to the greatest of all time in a different topic. So, for instance, this is my third week. My first week I did the greatest rock frontmen. My number one pick, I think most people agreed with me, was Freddie Mercury from Queen. Last week, we did the greatest divas of all time. And it was a little bit of controversy because I didn't pick Madonna as number one, but I did put her as number two. I picked Beyonce as number one. So, again, keep in mind, these picks aren't from any magazine or anything. They're right from DJ Ray, right? These are my picks based on a lot of experience, but still, they're just my picks. So feel free to chime in with, do I see my gets? Gets, or do you mean guest? Ange? Yeah, if it's gets, I'm not sure what gets are, but
maybe guess.
Yeah, I do.
Guess.
I do see them. Thanks. Last week I picked Beyonce, and this week it's the greatest electric guitarist of all time, lead guitarist. Now, keep in mind, some of these, when I put these lists together, I'm surprised myself. Last week I had Aretha Franklin at something like number 17 of all time as the greatest diva.
Can you hear me?
I would have never thought that, but I have scoring systems that I put together, and that's how it really determines. Even tonight is a little surprising who, I'll let you guys decide who the number one was, but you might find a few surprises. I'll just tell you the scoring points. For tonight's live greatest guitarist of all time, there's 10 points. 2 is for their unique sound on guitar. 2 is for their style and image. 2 is for their technical skills.
I'm talking.
2 is for their personal popularity. And 2 is for their longevity in the music industry. So keep all that in mind when you question some of my picks, which I don't see how you could question many of them, but I love opinions. How you doing, Daryl? Nice to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining. So let's get into it. At number 20.
Ray, can you hear me?
Joe Walsh. Okay. For those of you who aren't too familiar with Joe Walsh,
I don't know. I think he can't hear me.
He's an ex-member of the Eagles. Amazing guitar player. Let's grab some of my pointer notes. Brain's not what it used to be. He was not only a member of the Eagles, he also had a very successful solo career. One of my favorite songs of all time by the Eagles, or period, is Hotel California. Great rock ballad. He played lead guitar on that song. And if you ever listen to the guitar riff on Hotel California, it's just mesmerizing. And that's not the only song, but I can't go on to every song that he's played on. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in the year 1998. And in 2011, Rolling Stone magazine included him on their list of the greatest guitarists of all time. So needless to say, Joe Walsh is a bona fide number 20 pick. Okay, but not the greatest of all time. So we'll move up. Number 19. Again, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with this gentleman, but he's been the lead singer and guitarist for most of the tenor with the band known as Pink Floyd.
No.
Pink Floyd is I guess you have to have a certain taste to like Pink Floyd. I love Pink Floyd. But a lot of people, it's weird. I always found that some music caters to females, some music caters to males, and some caters to both. And when I think of Pink Floyd, I really think of a guy band, but it's just because guys sometimes they mellow out and chill, and it's a very chill kind of sound with Pink Floyd. But David Gilmour, if you listen to songs like Comfortably Numb, like just amazing. So, he was the lead guitarist for Pink Floyd. In 1996, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in 2005, he was also inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame. In 2023, Rolling Stone magazine included David Gilmour on their list of the greatest guitarists of all time. So my number 19 pick, not the greatest of all time, number 19 goes to David Gilmour. Which brings me up to 18. We got a Canadian. I think it's the only Canadian on my list. No, we got a couple Canadians, but coming in at number 18 is a gentleman you might know, Alex Lifeson, from the band Rush. Very progressive rock band. He was one of the original founders of the band. And I mean, I got to be honest. Personally speaking, I probably wouldn't put Alex Lifeson on, but with my scoring system, he deserves to be at number 18. I'm not a big Rush fan. I've never really quite, but you got to respect them. And you got to respect Alex Lifeson. And he comes in at number 18 on my greatest guitarist of all time. Number 17, the late Stevie Ray Vaughan. This guy helped revive blues rock in the early 1980s. I mean, he was ranked as the #1 blues guitarist by Guitar World magazine. And in 2015, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, on August 27, 1990, he died in a helicopter crash after playing a gig in Wisconsin. It was very tragic. If you've never seen Stevie Ray Vaughan, he wasn't in a band. He was the band. And you like blues, you've been missing out. So Stevie Ray Vaughan, I'm going to give him the nod at number 17. So moving on, number 16 of the greatest guitar players of all time. Before we get to that, let's see what's going on in the chat room here. Hey, Vito, how are you? You're not here for me. Okay, that's okay. I'll take whatever I can get. Yeah. Morning, Thunderbird. How you doing? How's it going, guys? Thanks so much for joining me. I'm going to continue. Tonight I'm counting down the greatest lead guitar players of all time. So at number 16, a little bit of a harder player. Some of the guys might enjoy this one. He was the lead guitarist for Metallica, and his name is Kirk Hammett. Of course, James Hetfield was equally as strong, but he was more of a rhythm guitar player, and I guess Kirk was the man who just kind of, shined a little bit more, where James was focusing on the vocals. In 2003, Kirk Hammett was included on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the greatest guitarists of all time. If you've never seen Kirk Hammett play, just wicked just to watch him, because he's one of those guys that makes up points. Remember, I told you the points are unique sound, style and image, technical skills, popularity, and longevity. Well, what doesn't this guy have, but he's not the greatest of all time. Number 15, the only female on my list, I believe, and this one just doesn't get enough credit. I mean, she gets credit, but not. Nancy Wilson of Heart. Okay, she was the lead guitarist for the band Heart. She was one of the first hard rock female guitarists who paved the way for many others. She could just wail on the guitar. Songs like Barracuda. You listen to her play on that song, or Crazy for You, or Magic Man. She's just just golden on guitar. So and in 2013 she was officially inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So Nancy Wilson, and she wasn't bad to look at either, by the way. I'd have to say Nancy Wilson of Heart is the number 15 all-time greatest lead guitarist. Okay, let's keep moving on. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's just see what we got going on here. But I hope you guys are enjoying everything. If anybody wants to type in who they think is the #1 greatest guitar player of all times, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to just put it in the comments. I'm just checking to see if anybody commented on their favorite, or it's not even so much your favorite, because I'm not basing this on my favorites per se. In some cases I am a little bit, but thanks, Darren, for saying that. I appreciate the support. It's really just who's the best, and being my favorite is part of it, but it's really just, like I said, the scoring points. Unique sound, 2 points. Style and image, 2 points. Technical skills, 2 points. Popularity, 2 points. Longevity, 2 points. Taking us to number 14, Eric Clapton. Okay, this guy had success as a solo artist and with the Yardbirds and with Cream. So, I mean, he was so respected back in the 60s and 70s, Eric Clapton. I mean, just a technically sound genius on guitar. In the year 2000, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in 2006, he was awarded the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award as a member of Cream. Why I take a few points off Eric Clapton is really just his stage performance. The one thing I never loved about it, obviously he's an amazing guitar player, but I always found him kind of just, monotone a bit when he plays. I like seeing some movement and some, we were just talking about Kirk Hammett from Metallica. Like that's a show with guitar too. You really got to give it all. So I'll put Eric Clapton as my number 14, and lucky number 13. Some of you might be surprised I have this guy so low, but it's really not low. These guys are all amazing on this list. So number 13 is Pete Townshend of The Who. He was the lead guitarist for The Who and principal songwriter. Aside from guitar, he also plays keyboard, banjo, accordion, harmonica, ukulele, mandolin, violin, bass guitar, and drums. So quite the musician. He's known for his aggressive onstage style. That's kind of, when I think of, Pete Townshend, I just think of him like smashing guitars and stuff, and Roger Daltrey, the lead singer, just whipping that mic around by the cord, is always like lassoing a horse or something. In 1990, Pete Townshend was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 2001, he received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award. Needless to say, I can go on about the accolades of Pete Townshend, but he comes at number 13 on my all-time list of the greatest guitar players. We're almost at the top 10 here. Number 12, our second Canadian. What more can I say about Neil Young, right? And the thing is with Neil Young, I was trying to keep most of these players towards electric guitar, because otherwise Joni Mitchell would be in here and a few others, Joan Baez, but I was trying to keep it mostly to electric. And Neil Young is electric, but he's also probably just as known or more known for acoustic, but he's an exception. So aside from his incredible solo career, he also played with Buffalo Springfield and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. His often distorted electric guitar playing, especially when he's playing electric, well, I guess that's the only way he can do it, earned him the nickname Godfather of Grunge Music. So basically, he helped inspire bands like Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Stone Temple Pilots, Radiohead. So, but I don't really hear the grunge too much. It's just a distortion, but I guess that would be kind of a pioneering move. Just one sec. Sorry. Throughout his career, Neil Young won multiple Grammy Awards and was twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. With those kind of credentials, it's easy to see why I've got fellow Canadian Neil Young in the number 12 spot. Moving on to number 11. He had tremendous success with both the Beatles and a solo artist. As a Beatle, he wrote the songs Taxman, Something, Here Comes the Sun, and While My Guitar Gently, let me say that again, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. He was twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once as a member of the Beatles in 1988, and once as a solo artist in 2004. Of course, I'm speaking about one of the Fab Four, George Harrison. Look, he was upstaged a little bit because he played in such a great band. He was upstaged by Paul McCartney and John Lennon, but we're not talking about lead guitar players with those two. Of course, it's hard to match those two, but George Harrison was every bit the talent as those two. So he comes in as guitarist, greatest lead guitarist of all time, at the number 11 spot, which brings me to the top 10. I always get excited in the top 10, you know, it's like, this is the good stuff, you know. Oh, that's some good conversation going on in the chat room there. I like it. I like it. Yes. Lita Ford, morning third. Oh, that's an interesting choice. Lita Ford is the greatest guitarist of all time. That's interesting. And when you said she is awesome, are you talking about Lita Ford or something else? I'm so many comments here. I love it. Eddie Van Halen for Darren. That's a great choice. He may be on the top 10. And speaking of the top 10, let's continue on here with number 10. He was the lead guitarist and co-founder of the British rock band Queen, right? He wrote many songs for Queen, including We Will Rock You, I Want It All, Flash, Fat Bottomed Girls, and The Show Must Go On, just to name a few. In 2001, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And in 2023, he was knighted by King Charles III for his services to music. I'm speaking, of course, about Brian May, lead guitarist of Queen. This guy was interesting, you know, because, I mean, talk about being upstaged. Freddie Mercury alone, I mean, that was the band, really. So here you have this amazing guitar player in Brian May, and he kind of gets overshadowed because he wasn't overly expressive, but there was something about him that just, he was so intense in his playing, and his sound with Queen was so cool. Yeah, I mean, just number 10, Brian May of Queen. So continuing on, this one's kind of cool. Number 9, he was nicknamed the father of rock and roll, and he was one of the earliest guitar heroes. His onstage showmanship was second to none, and he was among the first musicians to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when they first started inducting. John Lennon from the Beatles once said, if you tried to give rock and roll another name, you might call it Chuck Berry. When I think of guitar, when I was a little kid, and I think of guitar, it was all Chuck Berry. I mean, the guy, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. I think it may have had something to do with the fact that he was a black musician in 1955. I don't know, but in America, because Elvis Presley came out around the same time and flourished. Well, so did Chuck Berry, but, and Chuck Berry just, number 9 goes to Chuck Berry for sure. All-time greatest guitarist. People forget how great he was, and his sound was different. Of course, if you listen to Chuck Berry's guitar solos now, from back in 1956 or whatever, of course they're not going to sound like, you know, whatever, Joe Walsh or Kirk Hammett or whatever. It's a different sound. But if you appreciate guitar, you will see the genius in Chuck Berry. Number 8, you guys are going to probably, I'm glad I'm not in live, because you might throw eggs at me at this one. Okay, here we go. Number 8, Jimi Hendrix. Do I see any boos? I would have thought before I scored, Jimi Hendrix would arguably be number 1. But, you know, and he's dealing with a lot. The ones higher than him are just that much different. You got to remember where Jimi Hendrix loses points is longevity. He was here for a good time, not a long time. just incredible. But if he would have lasted number one all the way, he just couldn't. In 1968, Billboard magazine named him Artist of the Year. And that same year, Rolling Stone magazine declared him Performer of the Year. It's Jimi Hendrix. In 1969, he headlined the Woodstock Festival. Woodstock, the original one, not those silly ones they came out with in the 90s or whatever. The real Woodstock, he headlined it. He's often cited as a member of the infamous 27 Club, which includes a number of famous musicians who died at 27 years of age. Musicians like Jim Morrison, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain from Nirvana, Amy Winehouse, Brian Jones from the Stones, just to name a few. He was a part of it, Jimi Hendrix. So Jimi Hendrix is my number 8 greatest guitarist of all time. Number 7, I'm a little surprised by this one because I don't know. It's not, it's kind of the same sound a lot to me, but when I did the scoring, Angus Young from AC/DC, he co-founded the Australian rock band AC/DC. He's known for his energetic performances and his own version of Chuck Berry's Duck Walk. Remember that thing, Chuck Berry used to do across the stage? That's where Angus Young got it from, in his schoolboy outfit and his trademark schoolboy outfit that he pretty much wore every time he performed. In 2003, Angus Young was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, longevity alone gives this guy an automatic 2, he's still around. He's still kicking. Doesn't look too good, but he's still kicking around. He definitely had 2 points for style and image, 2 points for technical skills, 2 points for popularity. So he's, a pretty unique sound, AC/DC too. So number 7 goes to Angus Young. I was wondering if anyone else typed in any favorites that they think should be number 1 as we're getting really close. Yeah, Jimmy does rock, eh? You would have put him at number 2? Is that Jimi Hendrix you would have put at number 2? Darren? Yeah, okay. So moving on, number 6. Totally different than the rest in the sense that he just puts his own spin and his own style on things. He's a founding member of the rock band Santana. He pioneered his own unique sound, combining a fusion of rock and roll and Latin American jazz. Throughout his amazing career, he won 10 Grammy Awards, and in 1998, he was officially inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1999, he experienced a resurgence with 2 number 1 hit singles in the U.S., with Smooth, with Rob Thomas, you remember that one, and Maria Maria, a little more of a Spanish-y style. But Carlos Santana is brilliant guitarist, man, and this guy just never dies. He's just, talk about longevity, his own unique sound. He's just amazing. So Carlos Santana comes in at number 6 for my list of the greatest lead guitarists of all time. Okay, top 5. I think you guys are going to be upset with me on this one too, because he probably should be higher too. I probably would have thought he was too, but after scoring him, he was the lead guitarist and founder of the English hard rock band Led Zeppelin. His incredible guitar skills are on full display with songs like Whole Lotta Love, Black Dog, and the greatest rock ballad of all time, Stairway to Heaven. What an amazing guitar solo in that one. And it just goes on forever. It's so cool. He was twice inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, once as a member of the Yardbirds in 1992, and once as a member of Led Zeppelin. And that's the mighty Jimmy Page. Just phenomenal. Whenever I picture Jimmy Page, I picture him with that double neck guitar and just in his zone, right? Okay. Yeah, he was really good. So number 4, unfortunately, he passed away recently. He was the lead guitarist and primary songwriter for the American hard rock band that bears his name. He was well known for popularizing the tapping guitar technique, allowing rapid, arpeggios using two hands on the fretboard. Of course, I'm talking about Eddie Van Halen. My number 4 choice is the greatest guitarist of all time. Not the greatest, but number 4. His legacy continues through his son, Wolfgang Van Halen, who performed alongside his father as bassist with the band Van Halen between the years 2007 to 2020. From what I understand about Wolfgang, he's almost as good as his dad. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? But yeah, I mean, and he was always having fun. The thing I love about Eddie Van Halen, he knew how to put on a show. He was a good looking guy. He always had cool guitars. He was always in the stance, you know. He's always smiling 90% of the time, or, you know, making those faces, you know, whatever. Number 4 goes to Eddie Van Halen. Number 3, I know you guys are going to be upset with this one. I'm pretty sure. I put a little personal into this one because this is my favorite guitar player of all time. So I have to apologize for putting a little personal. Maybe he should have been a wee bit lower, but I'm not going to make any apologies for this one. He was the lead guitarist for Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver. My personal favorite, he had a very unique guitar playing style, as well as a very distinct look. Who am I speaking of? The one and only Slash. His genius skills can be heard on many amazing tracks, including Guns N' Roses' November Rain, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, and Welcome to the Jungle. I particularly liked his playing on Velvet Revolver's 2004 ballad, Fall to Pieces. It's just a really cool, the guitar just mesmerizes me in that song, Fall to Pieces by Velvet Revolver, 2004. In 2012, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just talk about the epitome of a cool lead guitar player. I mean, who's the real star of Guns N' Roses? Was it Axl Rose or was it Slash? I mean, my eyes always went to Slash. He just had the stance, he had the style, he had that hat with his hair, and the thing is, and it's not about that only, although that's part of it, but it's about the guitar playing. If you listen to Slash's sound, I've never heard any guitar player in history play a guitar to make that sound that Slash makes. So number 3 goes to Slash of Guns N' Roses and Velvet Revolver. Okay, where are we at here? Yes, thanks everybody for coming. I appreciate it. I do appreciate it. I'm still pretty new to the lives, so yeah, Eddie will be missed. He will definitely be one for history. Okay, number 2. Let's move on to number 2 here. He was the recipient of numerous awards throughout his career, and he's regarded as one of history's greatest musicians. He's a multi-instrumentalist, and he was known for his flamboyant persona and wide vocal range, which included a far-reaching falsetto. Of course, I'm speaking of the artist formerly known as Prince. That might shock you guys, right? Like, when you think of greatest guitarists of all time, I mean, do you think of like an R&B pop singer? You know, I mean, I would never think that, but anybody who knows Prince and has listened to his music will testify. This guy is a freaking genius. There's no guitar player on this planet that can play like Prince. Nobody, as far as I'm concerned. He was just something else, like an anomaly to music in general, let alone guitar. So yeah, I mean, his diversity in music included so many genres like funk, R&B, rock, new wave, soul, blues, pop, hip hop, you know, just diverse, and just, there'll never be anyone like Prince. And it's not just for guitar playing, it's just for everything, just as an artist. In 2004, he was officially inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's Prince at number 2, who unfortunately died April 21st, 2016 at 57 years of age. Okay, number 1, let's get those drums going. Any last minute guesses? who it might be. I was a little surprised with this one, but yeah, Lenny Kravitz, Morning Thunderbird. I have to agree with you. I mean, talk about underrated. I love Lenny Kravitz, and I always wish he would have gotten more accolades than he did, because to me, he has a lot of traits of Prince, but unfortunately, as much as I love him personally, I don't think he fits quite into the top 20, because even my lowest guy at number 20 is Joe Walsh, and Joe Walsh is pretty hard to beat. So number 1 is the lead guitarist for the English rock band known as the Rolling Stones. That's right, Keith Richards. I would never have guessed I'd pick him number 1, but this scoring system, 2 points for unique sound. That is so unique, the Stones sound. His style and image, the guy, the first guy that would just smoke a whole cigarette while he's playing guitar and wailing on it too. His technical skills were great. And look, some people might say, I've heard people say that Keith Richards is overrated. He's not as good a player as half the guys on this list, but let's even say that's true. He played with the greatest rock band in history. He's been around since 1963. You can't argue longevity and popularity, and same kind of thing. Mick Jagger was what you focused on, but Keith Richards, as flamboyant as Mick Jagger was, just almost like a Freddie Mercury in his own right, way before Freddie Mercury, Keith Richards had to contend with that. He had to try to stand out, and he did with Mick Jagger. So that's my justification for him being, a couple other things to remind you of. His career spans over 6 decades. That's right, you heard right, 6 decades of iconic guitar masterpieces. Now, he, along with other members of the Stones, were an enormous part of the legendary British invasion, which took place in the mid-1960s. In 1989, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 2004, he was also inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame. So my number 1 on my list of the greatest guitarists of all time, with a perfect score of 10 out of 10, is Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones. I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but that's what I got for you. So, just before I kind of start wrapping things up, I just wanted to, one moment, please. I think it's important to remember that with this guitar, to leave it off, you have to remember that you don't have to be the perfect player when it comes to form. As long as you're a solid player with a unique stage presence and a cool image, you've got something. Because, like I said, Keith Richards, I don't know that he's the greatest actual guitar player as far as technical skills, but I mean, he didn't just stop at technical skills. I'll give you an example. I once knew a buddy of mine, amazing guitar player, and he was a session guitar player. So I always find session guitar players play brilliantly because they have to. They're filling in, So this guy is filled in with some pretty big names, and he pretty much plays perfectly. The problem is, when he was playing, he'd be like this. If you can play the phone book on a guitar here, and if you don't put any effort into it, or some movement, or some cool clothes, or a combination of the above, even some cool faces, something, it's music. You have to feel it. And if you don't feel it, I don't feel it. So this is why some guys like, Steve Vai or my mind's going blank, but some of these, Jeff Beck and everything, these guys that, and maybe I'm just saying off the top of my head, so maybe I'm saying the wrong guys, but these guys that just kind of like Eric Clapton, that just kind of plays like this. He's playing perfect guitar. He's amazing, but he doesn't put enough into it. That's part of the reason why I had Eric Clapton at number 14, and that's kind of the reason why I have Slash at number 3, because you could just sit there and watch him, Anyway, just wanted to throw that in there. before I end today's live, I just like to invite you to check out more of my content by logging on to my YouTube channel, my Facebook, Instagram, X, Spotify, Blue Sky, the newer one, and just about any major social media platform you can think of. Just search for me, DJ Ray's Music, and you can check out content that I've tons of content. I recommend going to YouTube, type in DJ Ray's Music, and it's incredible the amount of content, plus playlists that I don't really promote too much, but there's a section called playlists on my YouTube channel. Check it out. It's pretty cool. I'm still working on them, but they're pretty cool if you just want to listen to some music. With that, I'd like to remind you that I'll be back next Tuesday at 8 p.m. I'm here every Tuesday on TikTok at 8 p.m. start. I usually start right on time. And next week, our feature is going to be the greatest singing duo of all time. You know, Hall & Oates, Sonny and Cher, Simon and Garfunkel, you know, the greatest singing duos of all time. So that's happening next week. I just want to say thank you for joining me. I really appreciate the support. And hopefully we'll see you next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thank you.